In this video, I'm going to be discussing how the wealthy are taking advantage of our current tax system and how you can't do the same. But before I do, welcome to the quietest ones in the room with your host, Trey. I gotta say it, just the fact that you've clicked onto this video and you're listening to the sound of my voice, you by far are the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. So once again, thank you for joining me. Have you ever heard of this word, SLAT? It's an acronym. It stands for Spousal Lifetime Access Trust. And right now, a married couple in this country who's wealthy can pass up to $27 million without paying federal estate tax. And so right now in this country, there's a popularity for what are called SLATs. And they're set to expire January 1st, 2026. And so the interest in SLATs has spiked. And so wealthy individuals are trying to find ways to avoid taxes. See, billionaires and millionaires avoid taxes, and the everyday average American, us as the workers, us as the homeowners who might be house poor, renters, we have to pick up the slack when these wealthy individuals use these tools that allow them to avoid taxation. See, I'd never heard of a SLAT before, but I completely understand that in circles where people have money, they are continually trying to find ways to avoid paying taxes. See, but most of us who make money, live paycheck to paycheck, pay taxes. But the wealthy, we've seen it over and over how they're able to move money around in special ways and avoid taxes completely. Remember the Panama Papers, the ISIS papers about all the offshore accounts that many of the wealthy have that people didn't know about just to avoid taxation. And so, you see, what the wealthy are doing is what many of us can't do, which is find a very expensive lawyer, a tax professional who can help them hide money in a trust, a foundation, an LLC, or as I mentioned, an offshore account. So a SLAT is just a way to give millions to your spouse in a trust and not pay estate taxes on it later. And I've said this before in previous videos. One of the ways that we can fix wealth inequality in this country is to tackle taxing estate taxes much higher than they currently are for the wealthy. And the wealthy know this, and this is why they would use tools like SLATs. Because if there is a shift, here's a way that they can use a tool to circumvent the system. Because at the end of the day, they don't want to pay any more taxes. And look, we all understand that taxes suck. But it's a part of what it means to live in this country. Death and taxes, as they say. So, think about it this way. It's not just about SLATs. It's literally about the game that the wealthy are able to play that you're not able to, that I'm not able to. See, these trusts aren't the only trick. The rich use real estate loopholes. They carry their wealth in stocks instead of cash. And obviously there are stock loopholes. And I actually recall about a month or so ago, the Trump administration was discussing eliminating a stock loophole that so many hedge funds use. So anyhow, The wealthy, obviously, they borrow against assets to avoid selling and triggering taxes. They never sell. They borrow against their assets, living tax-free while their wealth grows. But the average American lives paycheck to paycheck. So is tax avoidance legal? Yes. The IRS allows this. But you can't access it because you can't find it on TurboTax. You actually have to go to a professional and pay large sums of money to use some of these tools. And what's interesting about all this is the IRS, even if when you look at it and you think about audits and how the wealthy are able to use these loopholes, they really don't get audited. They really don't go after the wealthy. I remember looking at statistics that the IRS is more likely to target lower income individuals than they are high net worth individuals. They're more likely to audit a waitress for missing a W-2 than audit a billionaire with 20 shell companies. A billionaire who uses slats. And the IRS just doesn't care, it looks like to me, to go after the wealthy. In 2022, the poorest Americans were 5 times more likely to be audited than the top 1%. And so the IRS enforcement doesn't make any sense. How is it that the wealthy continue to get away with what they do? But obviously we understand the system is set up to benefit them and they take full advantage of it. And the question is, when you hear about how the wealthy are avoiding taxes, ultimately it comes down to, why should you even care? Why should you give a damn? See, when the rich avoid paying taxes, guess who picks up the tab? You and I do. It's less money for public schools, health care, infrastructure, higher pressure on the middle class and working class, taxes, and cuts to services. And obviously it increases the wealth gap. So the rich continue to stay rich. And with the struggling that I see so many of my peers and family members and people that I see on LinkedIn and on other parts of social media, it's time out for allowing our institutions to give all these wealthy people a continual pass of loopholes that continue to lace their pockets and their friends' pockets. Because as I said over and over, we have made them wealthy. The wealthy do not get wealthy off the wealthy. They get wealthy off the backs of the everyday average American who works extremely hard, 60 hours a week, so many people, multiple jobs, and still not able to make ends meet. And I'm seeing all these articles, and I've been discussing them on the channel. Oh, how much money do you need to make? How much money do you need to make to have a comfortable life? How much money do you need to make to have a menial life in this country? And then you start to look at the numbers and you realize, oh, you need $80,000 to live what they consider a comfortable life. But you have individuals and you look at the numbers and the median income is $36,000. Most people aren't scratching over $50,000, $60,000. It's not fair, and the tax system isn't fair. And so Obviously, the politicians, the legislators have to make change, because I don't see it being sustainable, although I know that the wealthy don't want to give up their lot. They don't want to give up the money. But without that, all this turmoil that we're seeing from week to week with the protest and wars and rumors of wars, why do you think all that's going on? People are fed up. People are not pleased with the status quo. So here we are. So moving forward, just think about it. Just moving forward, just always think about the ways in which the wealthy are able to scapegoat, to hoard wealth, while you have to live paycheck to paycheck. And just think about what you can do in your community and in the state that you reside in to push politicians and legislators and not transact with certain businesses as we move forward, because it is so necessary. But anyhow, please drop a comment on this topic. Please like, share, and subscribe. Look, I am certain you're tired of the rich playing by different rules. And pressure needs to be applied. But as always, guys, I really thank each and every one of you for continually checking out this content. Definitely motivated. And as I always say, ladies and gentlemen, until next time.